Lesson 2.3 is on linear functions and slope-intercept form. The objectives to graph linear equations and to write equations of lines. This lesson will be broken up into 2 days. The first day we're going to focus solely on the first two example problems. Alright, the first thing that we're going to talk about is slope. Slope measures how steep a line is. The formula for slope is as follows. Slope equals m. So the lowercase italicized m is the abbreviation for slope. It equals rise over run, and it also equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now, to calculate the slope, use the formula rise over run when asked to find the slope of a line on a graph. And then when you're given 2 points, you're going to use the formula y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Alright, in problem number 1, we're asked to find the slope of the line that passes through the given points. So here we are given 2 points. So the formula for slope that we're going to use is m, or slope, equals y sub 2 minus my y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Alright, now, in order to, so you don't make any careless mistakes, what we want to do is label. We're going to label this your x sub 1 and this your y sub 1, and this is going to be your x sub 2 and this is going to be your y sub 2. Alright, so we're now going to go plug in. So your y sub 2 is equal to 4 minus your y sub 1, which is 7, all over your x sub 2, which is negative 2, minus a negative 3. Alright, so 4 minus 7 is negative 3, and negative 2 minus a negative 3, the double negative becomes a positive, so negative 2 plus 3 is equal to 1. So our slope equals negative 3 over 1, or negative 3. Alright, in part B, same thing, we're given 2 points, so we're going to use the formula for slope, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Get into the habit of writing this all down, alright, so you don't make any careless mistakes. Alright, I'm going to come up and I'm going to label my points, and this time I'm going to label this as my x sub 1, and this is my y sub 1, and this is my x sub 2, and this is my y sub 2. So notice that it doesn't matter which point that you pick to be your x1 and y1, or your x2 and y2. Just know that if this is your x1, then that has to be your y1. Alright, so the numbers kind of have to match. Alright, so our y sub 2 is going to be 1 minus 1. Our y sub 1 was 1. And then what do we got here? Our x sub 2 is going to be 3 minus our x sub 1, which is negative 4. Alright, so we have 1 minus 1, that's going to be 0. So we have 0 over 7. 0 over 7 is 0. So there's our slope for B. Alright. Now for part C, I'm going to use a different color here so we can see it. Again, I have 2 points, so m equals y sub 2 minus my y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. I'm going to label my points. I'm going to say that this is my x sub 1 and this is my y sub 1 and this is x sub 2 and y sub 2. Alright, go ahead and plug in. Alright, so my y sub 2 is 1 minus negative 3 all over my x sub 2, which is 7, minus 7. The double negatives become a positive, so 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. 7 minus 7 is 0. Alright, now, whenever I'm dividing by 0, my slope is undefined. Alright, so we have an undefined slope because we're dividing by 0 in part C. Alright, for the next part, we're going to look at this concept summary on slope of a line. And what we're going to do, and this is going to be the first thing that you're going to have to do in your homework, is based on a graph, determine what the slope of the line is. Alright, so if you remember, when we are given a graph of a line and asked to find the slope, we want to use the formula slope equals rise over run. Alright, and so here's what you're going to do. We're going to find the slope of all 4 of these. Alright, so we'll label that 1, we'll label this 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so the slope for the first one here is you want to look and see where the line crosses a lattice point, and a lattice point is like the corner of where the line crosses like the corner of the graph. So here, and let's just say here. Alright, and so you're then going to ask yourself, alright, how do you go from the first point to the second point? And it doesn't really matter which point you use as your first one or your second one. Alright, so I'm going to go from here. How do I go from here to here? Well, let's calculate how much we have to go up. What is our rise? So our rise is 1, 2. So we have to go up 2. Since you go up, the 2 is going to be positive. And then from there, I got to go over 1, 2. So my run is positive because I'm going to the right. So if you're ever going to the right, or if you're ever going up, you know that number is going to be positive. So I'm going to the right 2. Alright, so what is 2 over 2 equal? 2 over 2 is equal to 1. So that is my slope for the first one. Notice that the slope is positive, and so when you have a positive slope, when you look at the line, it rises from left to right for a positive slope. Alright, now for the second one. Alright, so our slope equals rise over run. Alright, so what is our rise? Well, before we start with that, again, look and see what are the where the graph crosses these lattice points. So again, that's at like a corner, like kind of the corner of a box. So here, and it looks like right here. Alright, so I'm going to start here and go to here. Again, that doesn't matter. I could always start here and go here. You'll end up getting the same answer either way. So don't worry. Alright, so I am now going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have to go down 4. Since I went down, that means my 4 is going to be negative. And then I'm going to have to go to the right 1, 2, 3. Since I went to the right, the 3 is positive. So my slope for the second one there is negative 4/3. Okay. All right, for the third one here, now notice you have a horizontal line. So whenever you have a horizontal line like this, all right, your slope is going to equal 0. So that should make sense. A horizontal line, imagine a flat road. How would you describe a flat road in terms of slope? You'd say there is no slope. All right, it's flat. All right, so our slope there for number 3 is 0. Now, if by chance we look at or we see a line that is vertical, that vertical line is going to have a slope that is undefined. So vertical lines have slopes that are undefined. Horizontal lines have slopes that are equal to 0. And then I forgot to mention this, but going back to the second one here, when you look at this line from left to right, notice how it's going down, and that would indicate a negative slope. All right. Okay, now before we get into talking about slope-intercept form, it's important that you understand what an intercept is. An intercept of a line is a point where the line crosses an axis. So where the graph crosses the y-axis is called the y-intercept, and where the graph crosses the x-axis is called the x-intercept. All right, so we're going to definitely keep that in mind. All right, so if I have a line here, all right, this point right there, that would be the y-intercept. That's where it crosses the y-axis. And then that point right there, that's the x-intercept. That's where the graph crosses the x-axis. It's going to be important. We're going to focus primarily on the y-intercept in this lesson. Okay, so now slope-intercept form. Hopefully you guys remember that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And this b right here, that's your y-intercept. Alright, and then so let me circle that, that's your y-intercept. And then the m, that is your slope. So in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form, you need just what the name says you need. You need a slope, and you need to know the y-intercept. All right, the last we're gonna do problem 2, and this is going to be the last example that we'll do for this day. So it says, what is an equation of each line? So we're just basically given one here. All right, so in A it says that the slope, or m, is equal to 1/5, and the y-intercept is the point 0, -3. All right, so slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay, so I'm going to take my m equaling 1/5 and plug it in here. I'm then going to take the, let me change colors. I'm then going to take the -3. That -3 is the y-intercept. I'm going to plug that in for b. And that's all you need to do. So we're going to have y equals 1/5 x minus 3. So whatever the sign is, all right, we know it says plus here, but what goes between is whatever sign the y-intercept is. So there's your final answer. Alright, so this wraps up the 2.3 day 1 lesson. Real quick, actually, now that I see it, just so we're clear, linear equations, whenever you see the word linear, that means we're dealing with equations that would form a line, a straight line when they're graphed. Alright, that was presented a couple slides ago, and we didn't cover it, kind of skipped over it. Where is it? Let me go back. Right to this slide. Alright, so a function whose graph is a line is a linear function. Alright, so all of these graphs that we're going to be dealing with are all lines, and we know that because they're linear. Okay, so hope that helped, and we will see you in class tomorrow.